So I wasn't really planning on making this video, but the more I thought about it, the more I felt that a simple text post isn't quite enough to get my thoughts across. Talisman Sinclair has been nerfed, and while it's certainly been a long time coming, I think perhaps the more important part of this whole recent fiasco is the fact that Haicho Pack Mao Faust is not receiving a nerf. She is absolutely overtuned beyond belief, even without Talisman buffing her. What makes her so ridiculously overpowered is that once she reaches 10-star Blade, she can effectively spam her skill 3 every turn with zero downsides. In a game where most identities can only use their skill 3 every 6 turns, her action economy is just far too much. Even other identities who can spam their skill 3 quite often aren't nearly as good as it is her. Wild Hunt Heathcliff and Middle Sinclair are the two that come to mind, and both of them have fairly reasonable downsides. Sinclair needs to have 6 Envy Resonance with a full team dedicated to it, and Wild Hunt can only use it when he's on Dullahan, something that he can only do every other turn, and when he can't use his skill 3, he has to use a particularly weak attack instead. Faust, on the other hand, has no downside. She has no restriction, and there is nothing stopping her from just eviscerating every single enemy with her skill 3 every single turn. If you think she doesn't deserve a nerf, you are, simply put, an absolute moron. I feel for Kim Ji-hoon. Receiving death threats over something as trivial as this, especially when he's completely in the right, is just completely ridiculous, and the people that do it should be ashamed of themselves. At the end of the day, Limbus Company is a live service game, and that means that balance changes are something that should come naturally. Just because it's a gacha game on top of that is not a good enough reason to justify never changing anything ever. With that said, I'd like to take a moment to speak directly to Director Kim. You have a fundamental flaw with your design philosophy. Saying that you never want to change any character after they've released is a completely ridiculous notion. As the game progresses, how you create identities and egos will inevitably change. You will come up with new ideas that fundamentally alter how certain archetypes function, and once you do, the identities that were made before will be found lacking. There are a numerous number of characters that already fall into this category. One of them that I like to point out the most is Zvi Rodion, a character who was created before you came up with the idea to give the Zvi defense level up. She has absolutely no synergy with her team, all just because she was made slightly earlier than the rest. To say you never want to change her, to allow her to fit in better with her team composition, I find to be incredibly disappointing. Far more disappointing than you going back on your word. Balance patches are a perfectly normal thing to do, not just from a buffing or nerfing perspective, but for when your design choices inevitably change. Please, Kim, if there is one thing that I ask of you, it's to go back and change what needs to be changed. If you establish the fact that you are willing to make changes, people will be far more accepting whenever you have to make drastic changes to certain identities, like with Mao Faust. The only thing I want is for this game to succeed, and by letting the inherently broken and useless characters just lie there festering, it will inevitably lead to far worse problems in the long run. Anyway, that's all I really have to say. Both the Talisman and Faust nerfs were a good thing. Goodbye.